Have you ever been on that dream vacation, the one you've planned for ages, only to find yourself feeling, well, just exhausted, overwhelmed, like you're just running to keep up? Today, we are going to get into why that happens, and way more importantly, how you can flip that script. We're going to talk about how to turn your travel from something that drains you into something that truly expands your world. We're talking about becoming a sovereign sightseer.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll pull back the curtain on the hidden stresses of travel and really look at what's going on inside your brain when you're on vacation. Then, we'll get into how you can reclaim your experience. It's all about a simple but powerful mind shift. After that, I'm going to walk you through the Sovereign Sightseeing Protocol. Think of it as a set of real, practical tools you can use on your very next trip. We'll also explore why choosing depth over speed is so important. And finally, I'll leave you with a simple challenge to put all of this into practice. Let's dive in. I want you to just picture this for a second. You step off the bus and you're in a sun-drenched plaza in some historic city. The air is different, the sounds are new. But instead of just soaking it all in, you hear the guide's voice and you feel this sudden, crushing pressure to keep up. The group starts moving, and before you know it, you're just staring at the back of someone's head, trying not to trip on the cobblestones. And you realize you haven't actually looked up in 20 minutes. That feeling of anxiety, it's incredibly common, but it's not what you think it is. Look, that feeling is not a sign that you're slowing down. It's not about not being able to keep up. It's actually the result of a big mismatch between how a typical tour is designed and how your brain, with all its decades of wisdom, is now wired to work. A younger brain might be great at rapid-fire data collection, right? But your brain now excels at something far more valuable: deep analysis, making connections, and understanding the story behind the sights. So the problem isn't you. It's a conflict in processing styles.
There's a name for this phenomenon. It's called a sensory processing bottleneck. Think of it like this. Your brain is a powerful machine built for synthesis, for connecting the dots. But the tour is feeding it information at a fire hose pace, demanding you give shallow focus to a dozen different things in a row. It creates this traffic jam in your neural pathways. That feeling of being overwhelmed isn't just mental, it's the actual physical friction of your deep processing mind fighting against a superficial pace.
This slide really just frames the conflict perfectly, doesn't it? Your brain wants to operate in high-resolution depth. It wants to linger, to feel the history in the stone, to connect it to everything you already know. The tour, on the other hand, is built for low-resolution velocity. Its goal is just to get from point A to point B to point C, checking things off a list. You're a deep-water vessel being forced to skim the surface like a speedboat. You are not failing the tour. Your brain is simply refusing to settle for a shallow experience.
Okay, so let's go a layer deeper and look at the specific neurological reasons that make group travel so uniquely draining. Because this isn't just a feeling, right? It's rooted in biology and how our brains handle new, complex places. This brings us to a really interesting concept called cognitive environmental fit. See, at home, you move through mapped environments. You don't have to think about where the stairs are. It's all automatic. Your brain's on autopilot. But on a trip, especially a walking tour in a new city, you're in a state of what's called continuous executive navigation. Every single step requires conscious thought. Is that curb higher than it looks? Where's the guide going now? And that puts a huge, sustained demand on your brain's resources. This is what triggers something called visual dominance overload. Your prefrontal cortex, which is basically the CEO of your brain, it just becomes completely maxed out. It's trying to process the guide's words, look up at the cathedral, and make sure you don't trip, all at the same time. The simple act of walking and gawking sounds easy, but it's neurologically exhausting. It's like trying to run 3 heavy software programs at once. Eventually, your brain just starts to lag, and that lag feels like pure physical fatigue. And hey, it's not just visual. There's also what's known as the auditory gating shift. As we mature, it simply takes more conscious mental energy to filter out all the background noise, the chatter, the traffic, to focus on just one thing, like your guide's voice through a crackly headset. This constant filtering is a massive energy drain, and it leads directly to information fatigue. That's the point where you just stop caring. The guide could be revealing the secrets of the universe, but all you can think about is finding a place to sit. You're just trying to survive the schedule. And really, this is what it all boils down to. The business model for most tours is based on a herd mentality. It's about volume and efficiency, checklist tourism. But you're now operating on a wisdom-based tempo. You value narrative depth. You get that the real magic isn't just in seeing the thing, but in understanding it. This isn't a conflict of speed. It's a conflict of philosophy. So here's the crucial part. Once you understand this is just a sensory mismatch and not some personal failing, you can start to take back control. And that requires a really profound shift in how you see yourself on that tour, moving from being a passive follower to becoming a sovereign navigator of your own journey. This slide shows the powerful identity shift you can make. The passive follower sees the itinerary as a set of rules they have to follow. Their main thought is, I hope I'm not a burden, or I've got to keep up. But the sovereign navigator, they see that same itinerary as a menu of options. They know they're the client, the boss of their own experience. This is not about being difficult. It's about self-preservation and making sure you get the true value out of your trip. The schedule is there to serve you, not the other way around. I want you to let this idea really sink in. The pace of a tour is just an arbitrary average, but your experience, the memories you create, the feelings you have, that is an absolute. It is uniquely and completely yours. And you have an absolute right to control the speed at which you process your surroundings. This is called temporal sovereignty, and it's the key to protecting your mental energy when you travel. It's the freedom to set your own rhythm. You know, embracing this way of thinking has immediate benefits. First, it completely gets rid of the guilt of the slowdown. You're not being slow, you're being deep. It protects your personal autonomy. And science actually shows that this focus on depth leads to better, richer memories because your brain has time to process everything. This massively lowers travel-related anxiety, and most importantly, it ensures your trip is a source of expansion, not exhaustion. Okay, so enough of the philosophy, let's get practical. Understanding all this is one thing, but putting it into practice is what really matters. So this is the Sovereign Sightseeing Protocol, a set of concrete actions you can take on your very next trip to stay in control. These 5 steps are not just tips. I want you to think of them as an identity defense system. They're a toolkit you can use to protect your energy and make sure your experience stays your own. You can see them here: the anchor and pivot rule, the selective audio strategy, the 80% itinerary clause, the perspective lead, and the regrouping handshake. Let's break down exactly how to use each one. Rule 1 is the anchor and pivot. It is so simple, but maybe the most important one. The moment you step off that bus into a new, chaotic place, I want you to resist the urge to immediately start walking. Instead, find a bench, a low wall, anything, and just sit for 5 minutes. This does 2 critical things. First, it calms your vestibular system. That's your sense of balance. Second, it allows your brain to create a quick mental map of the space before you ask it to start navigating. You anchor first, then you pivot to explore. Next up is the selective audio strategy. This is your weapon against that auditory gating shift we talked about. For 10 minutes out of every hour, just turn your headset off. Give your brain the incredible gift of auditory silence. It's not rude, it's a sensory reset button. It gives your brain a break from filtering noise, and it lets you shift from passive listening to active personal observation. You will be amazed at what you notice when you're not being told what to see. Okay, this next one might feel a little radical at first, but trust me, it's a game changer. The 80% itinerary clause. This means you intentionally skip one major activity each day. This is how you fight the fear of missing out. Instead of rushing to a 4th museum, give yourself permission to find a comfortable chair at a cafe. This is not missing out. This is you choosing a deeper, more personal experience. You can observe the rhythm of the city, the way people interact. This unscripted time is often what you'll remember most. And finally, our 5th rule, the regrouping handshake. This is all about proactive, friendly communication. At the start of the day, just have a quiet word with your guide. Say something like, just to let you know, this place looks amazing and I'm going to move at my own pace to really take it in. I'll meet you all back at the bus at the designated time. This simple statement does wonders. It's not a complaint, it's a declaration of competence. It sets your boundary and lets the guide know you've got it covered. Now, it's so important that we frame this the right way. This isn't about managing a limitation. It is about leveraging a strength. That desire you feel to linger, to go slower, to really absorb a place, well, that has a different name. Let me say that again. Your desire to linger is not a weakness. It is a sign of advanced intellectual curiosity. You have, quite simply, outgrown the bucket list mentality. You're not interested in just collecting sights anymore. You're seeking meaning and connection. Your brain is operating at its absolute highest function, not just taking in data, but turning it into wisdom. I want you to remember this. You are a master of context. With all the years you've lived, when you look at an ancient ruin, you don't just see a pile of stones.
You see the echoes of an empire, the patterns of history, the human dramas that played out right there. You see the underlying narrative that a younger person might completely miss. Trust that need for deep processing. It's what makes your travel so incredibly valuable.
Okay, let's bring all of this together with one final core takeaway and a simple, empowering action you can plan for right now.
If there is one thing you take away from our time together today, please let it be this. The tour is a service you hired. It is for you, you are not for the tour. If the schedule is making you feel rushed, anxious, or just plain miserable, then the schedule is wrong, not you. You are the sovereign manager of your own discovery, and you always have the power to change the rules.
So, I have a gentle challenge for you. On your very next trip, or heck, even just an outing in your own town, can you practice what I call the stationary window? Can you find one 30-minute block where you intentionally just drop out of the movement? No destination, no goal, just sit on a bench in a park at a cafe. Watch the world go by. This is the ultimate act of sovereign travel, where you're not just consuming a place, but you're actually present in it. So as you plan your next adventure, just remember that the tour is a service you hired, and you have the power to change the rules. You can start that very next trip with the simple but powerful anchor and pivot rule to ground yourself from the first moment. Because in the end, temporal sovereignty, the ability to control your own time and pace, that's the real key to unlocking wonder. So remember to audit the pace, to anchor your presence in the moment, and to lead your life and your travels with the sovereignty you have so deeply and truly earned.